All right, let's talk about the notorious horror classic, the classic that made Gene Siskel walk out of the theater, a very gritty, low budget slasher called Maniac. So this one stars Joe Spinell. This was directed by William Lustig, who did the Maniac Cop trilogy and Uncle Sam. All those movies I have reviews for, and I have a review for the Maniac remake, which I adore. The plot for this movie is very simple. It's just about a man going on a killing spree in New York City because he's a maniac who's had some childhood trauma, and he's a mama's boy. So let's talk about this movie. I got the Blue Underground 4K restoration. It's got 2 commentary tracks on it. I've listened to both. Very informative, interesting to listen to. It's not one of those commentary tracks where they just tell you what's happening on screen the entire time like you haven't seen the movie already. First thing I want to mention here real quick is Tom Savini's effects. He did this right after Friday the 13th. I think he even was leaving the set. It was so close. I think it was right after, so he was leaving Friday the 13th, went straight to this, and even recycled some effects that he used for Friday the 13th. You got the Mrs. Voorhees dummy towards the end. And I think he even used Annie's slit throat in this one, or maybe he did that for the burning, but it was just really interesting to hear about that, how he just went from one set to the next. This was his heyday in the early 80s, where he was just doing slasher after slasher, and he became the Wizard of Gore, as he likes to call himself. So, yeah, you got some pretty cool effects at the time. The scalpings, the head explosion, which is the best kill in this movie. That's what made Gene Siskel walk out of the theater. This movie can't redeem itself with violence like that in it. Well, he's just a pussy. Fuck him. This is a really good movie. Of all the head explosions in the early 80s with Scanners, The Prowler, and this one, I think this one might be my favorite head explosion. I love that it's in slow motion. I love that Tom Savini's blowing his own head off, because that's him operating the shotgun, and they didn't even have permission to do that. I really like the score by Jay Chataway, who did the Maniac Cop trilogy with William Lustig later on, and it just has that early 80s synth sound to it that I really like. And this movie wouldn't work as well as it does without Joe Spinell's creepy, unsettling performance as the Maniac. Just his big eyes in moments, and just he's such a creepy guy in this movie. They went the total opposite direction in the remake, where they made him look more like a more normal, approachable person, whereas Joe Spinell is making his character look like a creep. And I find the character of Frank to be interesting. We find out more and more about his character as the movie goes on. They slowly peel back the layers and reveal more and more about him and his childhood abuse, and it's a character study more than a slasher. In the art direction, the set design of his bedroom just shouts a psychopath. That's how a maniac would live. That's how his bedroom would look like. The target written in chalk on the wall, he's just having target practice, dolls everywhere, the mannequin imagery in the film with the bloody scalps. I love that stuff in this movie. It's so disturbing, the imagery of mannequins with bleeding scalps on top of their heads. And I really love the gory, kick-ass ending where he just falls apart, literally, just all the guilt and his past crimes coming back to haunt him, and they just rip him apart. And this is some of Tom Savini's best effects in this movie. As for any dislikes, I feel like the pacing was a little off. There's just scenes that go on a little too long. The scene with the prostitute, this, it just went on for on and on. Just get to it, man. Just strangle her. There's just some scenes that could have been trimmed down some. It's not that long of a movie, but there's just moments where it started to drag a little bit. And the whole Frank and the photographer relationship thing, I just was not on board with. He looks like such a creep, and he follows her to her apartment and is like, "You took a picture of me at the park," and she never questions how he knew where she lived, why he's there. They just have a conversation and they're quickly going on dates, and she's kissing him on the cheek, and I don't buy their relationship at all. And I also felt that some of the dialogue in moments was a bit weak, a bit improvised. They didn't really have it fully thought out. The scene where they're at the restaurant together, the photographer and Frank. So final thoughts, I really enjoy the movie. I think it's effective at accomplishing what it wants to. It's gritty, it's sleazy, it's disturbing. Yeah, the pacing might be a little sluggish in moments, but it doesn't really hold the film down. It's very low budget, and if you're a fan of the slasher genre or character studies and disturbing films like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, this film is right up your alley. So when it comes to Maniac, I recommend you go out and buy it. All right, spoiler discussion. So we get this Jaws opening, and that's what the director was going for, he said. And we got a couple on the beach, and instead of a killer shark, we got a killer maniac. And you can tell it's shot like day for night when you're watching it. And the first kill is the woman getting her throat slit, and she's like screaming really loud on the beach. Her boyfriend's not that far away, but somehow the boyfriend doesn't hear her scream. I feel like the boyfriend should have gotten killed first with the wire. He like garrots him and lifts him off the ground. That effect on his neck looked pretty good, but the effect on her was not that good. It looks like just blood shooting off of the razor. So that was kind of rushed and a little cheap. It didn't look that good. But his kill was actually pretty decent. So good effect there. And then he like wakes up screaming, and you think at first that it was just a dream and it never happened, but then you see the newspaper and yeah, it says that there was a couple killed at the beach, so it happened. Then we see he has cigarette burns all over his chest, showing that he had some childhood abuse. But even though he hates his mom, he loves her too. He has like a love-hate relationship with her. I think he killed her. I think that's implied later on when he's like, you made me do it or something. Like it was like a jealousy thing. It's like Psycho, where he killed his mom who was having sex with other men, and he didn't think that she needed any other men in her life. And that's very much what's going on in this movie. It seems like he killed his mom in a jealous rage. She was a hooker, and she put out cigarettes on him, and she would make him hide in the closet and watch them fuck. So like he's disturbed. Like he can't get intimate with another woman or be around women who look like his mom, or because he keeps seeing his mom's face on other women, especially the prostitute, because his mom was a prostitute. So and he like seems to have a love-hate relationship with her, because he's killing all these women because they look like his mom, but yet at the same time he worships his mom and just wants to keep her forever. He has the picture, he has candles, like a whole shrine, like a Pamela Voorhees head thing in Friday the 13th Part 2. So it's like he loves his mom, he doesn't want to be without her, but yet he killed her, and he's killing all these other women who look like her, who are prostitutes like her, anyone who reminds him of her. He captures the one girl, takes her home, and he's saying that she is his mom. He's like, you might have changed your hair, but you can't fool me. I know it's you. And he's calling her mommy and everything. All the stuff that they do in the remake also. And so it's interesting. Like his character is very interesting, and it's very fascinating just trying to dissect this character as I'm watching it. Like, what is going through his mind? So does he love his mom? Does he hate her? He's killing all these women and that look like her. I don't know. So then we get a director cameo. He's at the hotel, and what's amazing is that he's only like 24 or 25, but he's got like this big old bald spot. Like he looks older, is what I'm saying. No offense, but he looked like he was in his mid 30s at least. And I found out that he was like my age in that scene. I was like, holy fuck. Some people age differently. And so he's strangling the hooker. In this scene, I think it could have been trimmed some. Like it goes on for so long. She's like this, and she just keeps, she's giving him the ultimate. But when he's strangling her, she is like screaming and talking like very coherently. Like she wouldn't be able to actually yell out for help and make the noises that she's making if he was properly strangling her. But yeah, we see like a glimpse where she looks like his mom. So that's why he's strangling her. But then he pukes right afterwards. So it's like he's not enjoying this at all. And they do that in the remake also. So it's like he has guilt right away. And and then he takes her scalp, and that's a pretty cool effect. And he puts it on the mannequin. He's like hammering the scalps onto the mannequin, and the reason why he's doing all of this is because he's lonely and he wants them to stay with him forever. You know, a mannequin can't leave you. I could never be a hooker because I wouldn't fuck some guy who looks like Frank for any amount of cash. $100? No. I couldn't even do it. Nope. And when he's strangling her and he has like that crazy look on his face, what is in his mouth? It looks like there's like some cigarette butt in his mouth, like, or chewing tobacco. There's something in his mouth. And then later on in the movie, same thing. There's like something always in the corner of his mouth, or maybe I'm just seeing shit, but what is in there? So then we get the whole Savini scene where he's making out with this girl and they throw in a quick line that she's cheating on her boyfriend so that it's less, you feel less sorry for her, I guess, because of that. They didn't have to throw that line in there, but she's like, oh, my boyfriend. So, oh, you're cheating on your boyfriend. Well, now you deserve to get shotgunned in the face. And I love that because she got shotgunned in the face, that her mannequin always has like a black sheet over her face, and it just has the scalp. Like, I'm not sure how he even got a scalp, if he blew her face apart. So he like found the piece of her scalp from the mess. So maybe he should have shot her in the chest. That way he could get the scalp like he does for the other ones. But yeah, he's killing men in this movie too. But I think the reason why is because of that whole jealousy thing. Because he sees these women as his mom, which is how I'm interpreting this. Maybe I'm wrong. But it goes back to his childhood when he killed his mom, because her tombstone says that she died in like 1957. That's what I read. So he killed her a long time ago. But for some reason now, like almost 30 years later, or 20, so like 23 years later, now he's going on a killing spree. Like, this is his first killing spree, right? I don't know. So I'm not sure what's triggering it now. Like, why 23 years later he's like now snapping and killing. I guess the loneliness got to him finally, and it's Christmas time, and that's when he killed his mom. Because on the tombstone it says that she died on December 25th. So it is Christmas time. This is a Christmas movie, by the way. He has a Christmas tree in his apartment, and he has like Christmas toys and shit. So he has like a wreath on his door. But anyways, getting back to my point, yeah, I think he's killing the guys too because the whole jealousy thing. He sees these women as his mom, and these guys are fucking his mom in his eyes, so he's got to kill them too. Stupid little thing I want to point out is that the mom at the park, she says to her child, don't swing so high. And then they cut back to the child on the swing, barely swinging. Barely. Like, she's not high at all. So that mom is way too protective. So then we get the long stalking scene of the nurse. And what I caught this time was you can see that they're walking past the same store multiple times. The nurse goes by a store, has the same address and business name on it. She walks by it like 2-3 times. So obviously they only had like this much, sidewalk to use, and they just kept shooting it tighter and tighter, like to make it look like they were going down a long street, but they're just probably going down 10 feet of street over and over again. Low budget filmmaking. And then there's a moment also later on where they like lost a few frames of the movie. There's when he's first going into the photographer's apartment. I didn't write her name down, Caroline, the actress. When he's talking to her, it just jumps. Like, there's a little glitch there. It looks weird. There's a couple of frames missing. But yeah, he stalks this girl into the subway, and this is the biggest mistake this movie made. Showing that shot of all those people down there. She's supposed to be isolated with no one around to help her, but then you see that shot from inside the train looking back at her, and there's like 15 people around her, and they linger on that shot for like 3 whole seconds. You didn't even need that shot at all. So that needed to be taken out. I'm not sure what the hell they were thinking. So yeah, then she goes in the bathroom, and this is like probably the most tension in the film. Just how the music kind of goes away, and when she's like holding her breath, and he's like looking towards the camera, and then goes out, and then you think the coast is clear. She's washing her face, and then boom, there he is right behind her and bayonets her. And then he's like yelling like, yeah, you like it. It's like a sexual kill. Like, the bayonet is phallic. It's his dick. And he's like, you like it like this, don't you? He's saying something like that. So these kills are kind of sexual. Like, even the Rita chick, The model, when he's killing her, he stabs her towards her vagina, and then he's dry humping her, and he's calling her mommy. Frank says at one point that his mom died in a car accident, which is probably not true. That's like the go-to explanation about how people die in movies. It's, oh, it was a car accident, or it was cancer. But he says that she died in a car accident. I think that's bullshit. I think he killed her in a jealous rage. The cigarette burns probably also, and then her fucking all these dudes in front of him, and it just made him snap. I wonder why Frank thought it was necessary to wear a ski mask covering his face when he captured Rita, the model. But then when he's killing her, he has his face exposed. It's not like he's hiding his identity from her. So I'm not sure why he had to wear a ski mask when he's tackling her from behind in slow motion. Like, it wasn't necessary. Another little creepy scene in the movie is he has like a mannequin of a little boy, and it's supposed to like represent him as a kid, I think. Or maybe he sees this mannequin as his son. Like, this is his kid. But yeah, it's like it's him as a little boy, and he's putting out cigarettes on it because that's how he thinks you parent children, because that's how his mom treated him. So it makes sense. That's why he's doing that. And he's basically like a kid at heart too. Like, he never really grew up. Because he's playing with all these toys. He's got the target practice thing on the wall he's shooting at. He's got all these little wind-up toys, and he's got dolls everywhere. Just look at his apartment. He's basically a little kid. But it's interesting too, like, even though he's so psychotic and he's such a kid at heart, on the same token, he can also be a normal person and go on dinner dates with this girl and act like a normal human being for a while. So then we get the cemetery scene, and it's very foggy. Very, very foggy. It's got more fog than The Fog by John Carpenter. There's way too much fog. But yeah, the tombstone, it says that she died at Christmas in 1957, I think. It was like they purposely made it hard to tell what it said. It was kind of smudged. Like they purposely put like a blur effect on it. It looked like it said 57 though. But that makes it weird that now he's snapping. Like, why over 20 years later? It would have made more sense if it was like the year prior that he killed her, and now it's like the 1 year anniversary. It's Christmas time again, and it's just triggering him, the season, and the loneliness being around the holidays and shit like that. But it's like 22 years later, now he's snapping and killing again. So I don't know. Did she die in 57? Is there anyone out there who has information about when she actually died? Because I don't know. Like I said, it was hard to tell, but I think it said 1957. I could be wrong. And then he keeps saying that Rita knew. Like, Rita knew what? The model. Like, what does she know? Like, Rita wasn't Rita to him. Rita was his mom, but now she's Rita again. So it's contradictory. It's like he thinks Rita is his mom, but now she's just Rita again. Like, what? So which one is it? Like, I'm confused. What does she know? Like, you killed her because you're like, oh, you're my mom. You can change your hair. You can do whatever, but you can't fool me. You're my mom. He's calling her mommy when he's fucking, dry humping her and killing her. But now she's Rita again, and she knew something. What does she know? I don't get that at all. And so then Caroline, she just runs away. I guess she got the cops. That would explain why they pull up and, break into his apartment at the very end. And young Frank is a terrible actor. There's just the voiceover of young Frank talking to his mom, and he's like, "Please, mommy, please don't. Oh, I won't be a bad boy." Like, he just keeps saying the same sentence again and again and again in the same like robotic voice. Like, it was awful. You couldn't get a better child actor for that one sentence. And then we get this basically a Carrie ripoff moment where the mom comes out of the grave attacking Frank. It's very much Carrie. Like, that's what they, I think, even say on the commentary track. Like, yeah, this is Carrie. We're ripping it off. And then he goes home and he's basically killing himself. But in his mind, he's seeing all his victims come back from the dead and rip him apart. They chop off his arm. They rip off his head. They're tearing his guts out. And it's bloody and fucking awesome looking. So these are some of the best effects in the movie. And in that moment, you can see the Mrs. Voorhees dummy pop up. There's just a random headless corpse that pops up from the side of his bed. I'm not sure whose body that's supposed to be. Maybe it's Tom Savini's body because his head was blown clean off. I don't know who else that would be. Maybe the guy on the beach in the opening. Maybe he sawed his head off with that wire, and that's supposed to be him. I don't know. But yeah, we see in reality that he just stabbed himself in the gut, and then his eyes open at the very last second. Just a typical 80s horror movie trope. At the very end, they just have that last second scare, that stinger at the end, where they promise a sequel. Like, oh, he's still alive. Maybe he can come back in Maniac 2, which was going to happen at one point. There was something in the works. Maniac 2, Mr. Robbie or something I read. Something weird, but they never really shot it. And then Joe Spinell died in like 1988 or 89. So that's unfortunate. Maybe we could have gotten another one, but nope. And I heard that the end credits were styled the same way as Halloween 1978. It's done like the same exact way. They have every credit in the same exact order. Oh, and another piece of interesting trivia, this movie was also going to be created by Dario Argento with William Lustig. Like, he was going to be the producer, and his wife was going to star in the movie, but then they went and they did Inferno instead the same year, and they even used some unused shots from Inferno, aerial shots of New York City. They take those shots that Inferno didn't use, and they use it in this movie. So those are my thoughts on Maniac. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Do you prefer the remake? Like me, I must say I prefer the remake. I think it's a masterpiece. I don't care what anyone says. I love it. I still rate this one high. I still really like this one, but the remake is just, I fucking love it. The POV, just the cinematography, the score, that's amazing. Check out my review for that movie, where you can hear me blow it for an additional 20 minutes. So, what are your thoughts on this movie, though? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's just an opinion. You don't need to get upset about it.